Through the haze, global watchmen lighten up the maze. They don't flinch, they don't fold, digging deep, breaking the mold. True patrol on digital ground, every whisper, every sound. Hey, eyes on the truth, no turning away. Global watchmen shining through the gray. From the shadows to the screen, they decode what the silence means. Click subscribe, let the veil be torn. This is the news we've been waiting for. Turning away, global watchmen leading the way. Every story, every thread, for the living and the misled. Raise your voice, let the signal soar. This is the news we've been waiting for.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street, and there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know the air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to get mad. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. My life has value.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Global Watchman News. My name is Lori Swan. I hope you guys are all doing well. If you're in the live chat, we do ask to keep it family friendly. There will be moderators in there to make sure that we stay within the terms of service put forth to us by the platform we're utilizing tonight. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Take a minute, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you know when we go live. So it's that time of the... It's that time again. We've got our good friend Dr. Joy PUGH is with us for our monthly meeting of the minds. Hey, Joy, how you been?
I've been doing well. I've been doing very good, and
I was
of course looking forward to this.
Doesn't sound right.
I tell you, it's been a wild ride. It seems like everything that's happened we could ever imagine, especially some of the things that you and I have known about for so many years, and to see it really playing out before our eyes, it's pretty extensive, pretty amazing. Not really fearful, because I think the more knowledge that you have about what's going on in the world, you can kind of deal with it. And I think before we went on, we were talking about truth, and that's one thing you said that I have, I guess, helped you see the need for, and that is that to tell the truth. The truth will set you free. And sometimes it's not always the greatest thing you want to hear, but at the same time, I think that what is so disappointing to me is that Scripture says that my people suffer for lack of knowledge. And unfortunately, some of our people that are in ministry and things of that nature are not really sounding the alarm and being the watchman on the wall that you and I know that God has called us to do. And we're living at the end of days, and things are happening so fast that if you are not in tune to what's happening around you, then it's going to catch you really more off guard. And when you're off guard and you don't have the knowledge about it, then you make stupid decisions. And I hate to say stupid, but really you do. You make inappropriate decisions for you or your family or yourself, and bad things can happen. And when they do, it's usually pretty quick. And a crisis is what we know has been used in past, to be able to control people and have them do things that they do not need to be doing. And they just didn't have the time to think about it.
I think that's what they strive to do, is they strive to throw so much things at us at one time that we lose our balance. And then when we lose our balance and our equilibrium, that's when they throw something really big at us. And they're banking on the fact that they've caught us off guard. We are going to make decisions on emotion rather than fact. And, the first thing I learned when I started nursing school, the very first day, is my nursing instructor said, adrenaline makes you stupid.
That's right.
And I never really understood what that meant until I got to be a paramedic. And I was out in the field, with emergency medicine. And then I realized, adrenaline, people, if you make decisions on adrenaline alone, they usually will be, could be detrimental to you or your family. So.
Well, that's the main thing. I mean, anybody that gets in a profession where emergencies are the rule of the day. And I can tell you, having worked in situations where you never knew what was coming next, for day after day after day, if you can't almost tell yourself to count to 10 before you try to move forward, you can really make some very, very unwise decisions on what to do. And if you, like you say, you're doing medical things, then that can be very detrimental to the health of someone, life or death. And absolutely. I've been in that situation where you had to make a decision, and you had better have your head on. You better be thinking correctly. Mm-hmm. You better know exactly what you're fixing to do. And if you don't, then a person's life is hanging in the balance at that decision that you're making. And unless you've been there, it's hard to describe that to someone, the anxiety that you have and how you have to learn to find some inner peace even in chaotic situations. And I think that, where we're headed today with what Scripture is telling us about, that we're going to start seeing things more and more and more, because when you get into mob mentality, like you're talking about, where people really, the adrenaline starts going, a lot of people maybe not do something if they're not in a mob. And that's what they know, that if you can get people into a crisis where you've got mob mentality, every time it's not wise. It's like a pack of dogs. They'll do a lot of things, but a dog on its own under stress may not do anything but hide. A person under stress may do nothing but stay inside the house. But then if there's, 10 or 15 out there, let's go do this. And they feel that comfort of the mob situation or the crisis situation, it drives people to make very, very, very bad decisions. And so I don't know how you can really teach somebody that. I mean, I can remember in counseling, in any situation where somebody could just maybe get explosive and pull out a gun to shoot you, you had to be prepared really for every setup. And sometimes I guess you can pray and try to stay very together with it. As long as you're not emotionally attached, that's pretty easy to do. But now if you get into emotional situations where you're attached to the people or attached to the situation or whatever, then being able to stay calm and cool and collect can be very difficult. And I think that we're seeing a lot of people right now questioning and wanting to know more, but we don't have the people in the right places, especially in the churches, unfortunately, to be able to stand up and talk about some of these things. And it's kind of been pushed to the side. And you know this as well as I do. We were considered conspiracy theorists, but now I think we're not. That's kind of going away. Thank goodness it's no longer I'm a conspiracy theorist. Apparently I'm a good teacher about what's coming now and how to prepare for what is really real. And I know you feel that way too, because for so many years, oh my gosh,
you talk about how the pastors, we can't rely on them anymore. And I think that this last few weeks, people are now starting to see that. I mean, when you have the government, and I talked about this several years ago when I did the show, I did a few shows of it on the FEMA pastors, how the government is training these pastors to essentially do the bidding of the government. And now that we're seeing the declassified documents coming out about UFOs, UAPs, aliens, entities, whatever they are, I think, and now that the government's instructing these pastors, look, your people are going to start seeing things, and this is how we want you to deal with it. And we know that the government's not going to go the spiritual aspect of it. They're going to push your pastors to steer you in the wrong direction. And if you don't have discernment, if you don't have a foundation, you're going to be led astray by the very person that you trusted with your life. So, I think that's a lot of things that are coming. I know that in the past, I would say 6-8 weeks, there have been reports of people seeing things in the sky like they've never seen before, Joy. I mean, literally, not just one or two lights, but several lights, and in several places. It's getting to the point where it's almost like the veil is completely torn.
Well, the thing that amazes me is, having done this research for so long and always felt since I was really 6 years old that I was going to see the end of days, that I would live to see this. It's pretty amazing when you at a child that age and you're really searching for answers. And then as I went through my life, and like I say, when I was 8 years old, I talk about in my book, Parables of Joy on a Georgia Farm, having seen my first UFO. And, we were talking about 61 years ago that I saw this. So it's not something where there was modern technology to the point that we have today. But some of the spheres that we're seeing on the UAPs that are being released by our by our military and our government, for the UAP committees to look at that, the Pentagon and Trump having to release, some of those spheres, some of them look like little silver balls and things of that nature. Of course, having studied this for so long, one of the things about the crop circles, and I talked about that in my book, Eating the Knowledge of Good and Evil 666, volumes 1 and 2, those particular things have been on cameras for a long time, that people have filmed actually flying over, like wheat fields and things of that nature in England, where they've actually seen those things. Now, there's some people that have gotten close shots of that. And all I can say is, it's a phenomenon that when I saw what I saw the first time, it was a solid thing of light. And it was absolutely perfectly round. It did not have a tail. It was not like a meteorite. It was not a fallen star. I mean, I lived out on a South Georgia farm when there was hardly any, there weren't even street lights back in the day that you could put out in your yard. You know what I'm saying? It's just that everything was pitch black, dark at night. And I'm going to tell you, back in those days, there was just nobody around close by. So when you saw something in the sky, it was not an airplane at night.
Right, exactly.
They were just not airplanes flying around in South Georgia like that.
Right.
So having seen that, and having seen my dad, he was a pilot. He actually was a crop duster and dusting plants and crops and stuff like that with a plane. And they would land on the little highways. I mean, I'm telling you, it's back in the day when it was just nothing flying around. So they had like runways that were made out of grass. But the thing about it is his excitement about wanting to make sure that I saw what I saw, and then seeing how concerned he was about what we had seen, because we were out on his motorcycle for an afternoon, evening ride, because when we get off the farm, it would be dark, and I would always beg for him to take me out on his 65 Honda, which was so much fun to ride behind him. And having, stopped and turned the engine off and watched this thing, just trajectory was just perfect across the pine tree tops. I mean, you could just see it forever. No sound, it's just, see, having grown up in an area where I could see meteorites and I could see falling stars. At 8 years old, I knew that was not something I could ever seen before. So I, of course, got a telescope, and Dad started staying outside in the afternoons and stuff, and we would look at the constellations and the moon, and that's when the moon landing started, being a big thing. So I grew up knowing that there was something there that was unexplainable, because the next day when I came in from school, we had a table that we all ate at. Back in the day, people did sit down and eat together, and they did not have cell phones. Okay. And my dad wouldn't even let the TV be on. Okay. So when you sat down at the table, it was like focusing on the family. But anyway, I came in, and I remember that there was a paper laying there, and I don't know whether it was an Atlanta Constitution. That was kind of Atlanta Constitution and Journal. That was a big paper. And there was one that was down in Jacksonville, that was the Jacksonville Times-Union. I don't know which one it was, because like I said, I was 8 years old, but I remember it laying there. It was not our local paper. And on the front, it said that UFOs had been seen over the eastern coast. That was the kind of the headlines. So right then, it was a verification that other people had seen something similar to what I had seen. So I never doubted it, Laura.
Yeah.
And the same way with, the Stratoterran and stuff that I studied way back in 1978, knowing about the Stirrup Committee, and knowing that they had already done scientific analysis on it. There was no such thing as it being painted by Da Vinci or fake or whatever. So I grew up, because I'm so old, knowing the truth before it got twisted to make it look like it was not the truth or conspiracy, to then bring it back to us and tell us it's the truth. I mean, I've lived long enough to see it be the truth, be not the truth, and be the truth again.
Right. Exactly. Well, it's interesting, because I mean, you and I, we through the years, we know that we parallel each other, and when I lived where I lived, there was no, I don't think people of this generation understand that there never used to be street lights out in the country.
Never.
Never. When it was dark, it was dark. Okay.
Oh yes.
Literally, you couldn't see your hand in front of your face.
That's right. You couldn't.
So when there was a light that you knew, like a lot of people would say, oh, it was just a car's headlights coming up the hill. there's no hill over there, or
No.
you know these things. So doing all the research and doing all of the reading and everything that I did, something that's always stuck with me is that, and I don't know too much about it, but back in the day, I'm going to say back probably in the 50s or 60s, there used to be another element known as the ether.
Yes.
And I don't know too much about that, but they removed it off the periodical table. But in Ephesians, Paul was the first to describe Satan as the prince with power. And he has the authentic power of this world, and he's the prince of the air. And I always thought when they said the air, it was, the air, AIR, but it's also the air is the AER, the atmosphere. So I always figured that, or I put two and two together to come up with, the fact that these things that we see could be the work of him.
Well, the thing that
it's
there's no doubt in my mind that that the spiritual realm is right here with us, and the manifestation of being able to move from the spiritual realm into the physical realm is very evident, especially if you have anything like a near-death experience. Or either you step outside of your body, because when you do, you're going to encounter usually something else that's there with you. It won't be like you're by yourself and there's nothing else in that situation other than that. Right. You can see everything in the natural that we can see, but at the same time, stepping into that realm, you can also see other things. And I think it's pretty amazing that when you take people and you look at some of the work that was done with the CIA in wanting to understand remote viewing, transcendental meditation. I know I might be throwing out things that people are not aware of. Those were kind of new age things when I first began working in the field of psychology, to really let you know that there was a way to leave your body or either see something at a distance. I mean, I came along when the ESP and all the stuff with LSD and cocaine and all that was starting to be really utilized in marijuana. And if you go back and you do the research on what was going on with some of the experiments that our government was very interested in, it had to do with trying to get into that realm. And it's interesting to me that the DMT that they used along with the LSD and even marijuana, where people have tried to say to me, oh, I didn't have that experience. There was this, and this. But then I've had the people who did have the experience. And it's interesting that they all see these little gray beings that are about 3 feet tall with these huge heads. And of course, having done abduction counseling with people who absolutely said these things were in the bedroom with them, and that they saw them outside their vehicles and would lock themselves into a truck to try to keep them away from them. Just all these kind of things. It was interesting when I first said to especially a person that was really just calling me almost every day, just in a panic. And this was a military person and was literally on a base. And what they were saying to me was the fear that it was so fearful they wouldn't sleep. I mean, they would put themselves in a vehicle and lock themselves in the vehicle. They would not stay in their home. And I asked about doing something, and I just said, you've got to fervently do it. But when these things show up, I want you to absolutely say, in Jesus' name, depart from me or deliver me, or anything that you can think of to get it out of your mouth, because these people, when this happens to them, they're so fearful that they can't even think straight. And that's the thing that I know that is coming, because when our government finally does let this out, how many people are going to be in the same situation, because they're not going to know how to deal with it and they're going to panic. And so I saw that in abduction cases of people talking about that. And I said, look, just call out the name of Jesus. Just call it the name. And what I found was when they did that the abduction and the little beings went away. So I find it interesting that they're seeing those things under great stress. And at the same time, the people who typically have experiences with them are also engaging in a lot of sexual sins. It seems like the more people that had sexual sin problems had the more visitations. So that was weird to me. But yeah, that's what I found in my counseling capabilities with these people, that if you could get to the root cause of some of the things that they were into and they were willing to talk to you about it, then they would talk about that. It was also interesting that people who were using the marijuana, who were using the DMT, the LSD, they also were encountering these big head, little bodies that we typically have known, have been told us to be the grays.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know that the only thing in scripture that when, Jesus was dealing with demons, that when they were inside of these people, he called them out. And if you talk to people who are exorcists and things of that nature, that these beings are very, very, very real. So I found it interesting that an abduction would stop immediately, just as if you had cast a demon out of a person in deliverance ministry. I mean, what are the odds of that? Because before, nobody could stop an abduction. Nobody had any way of doing that. And Barry Dowling, who was a Presbyterian minister, at the same time that I was trying this with some of the people I was talking with and counseling, he was doing that as part of his ministry, and he was finding the same thing. And of course, it became something that was discussed in the MUFON journal, which they were doing like reports and stuff of people having this happen. So I can honestly say that in any situation where a person, whether they have bipolar or schizophrenia, things of that nature, they're always hearing negative, bad things told to them. Just like the man that was in scripture, where he was in the graveyard and he was being tormented by these things. I have never, ever dealt with a schizophrenic or a bipolar person who's willing to talk to me about the voices that they hear. Every voice is a negative voice.
Right.
It never says, "Hey, Joy, you look great today."
Right. It never tells you what a wonderful person you are. Nothing. Yeah, it's always
They
negative.
never tell the
Yeah.
person anything positive. They have negativity for you. If you're dealing with other people, they make you think those people are bad. I've had situations where the person would think that those other people around them were, bad, evil people, and they were telling the person to kill those people. And also that, it's okay to engage in certain kinds of activities. They get them to involve themselves, whether it be in masochistic sexual stuff or whatever. They get them to go into the depths of hell for pleasures.
Mhm.
And so no time have I ever had
Those voices-
any of those voices ever say, "This is a great day. You're going to have a great day." It's always negative behavior. And I will say that I truly believe, in all the research that I've done and are doing still, is that it has something to do with demonic activity. And I do think it has something to do with these fallen angels and these little entities that we know as the people flying the craft around in the UAPs that are 3 feet with big heads that we see all over the internet.
The voices that these people hear, it's almost like the voices are leading them to open the doors to give legal legalities for these entities to come in and out. And it's interesting because there is an article that I found, and I'm going to pull it up. There it is. And it talks about, okay, so, we just talked about how the drugs opens the doors, mental illness opens the doors. But this I don't know, he's an exorcist, for the Catholic Church. Take that for
Yes.
whatever it is. But he says AI is also opening those doors to the demons. He says a leading Catholic exorcist is sounding the alarm about artificial intelligence, warning that new technologies from generative AI to voice mimicking consumer products are rapidly becoming vectors for occult practice, spiritual deception, and demonic influence.
That's right.
It says the tech itself is not the problem, he said, it's the use to which it's put. Those who are into the occult, witchcraft, and demonology are using AI as vehicles to cast spells and curses. And what's interesting is if you, a lot of people, I don't know if, have you ever interacted with an AI like ChatGPT or anything?
Well, I've interacted with Alexa and some of the things like that, but asked certain questions and tried to get answers back. There's just something very strange about how those interactions are set up to be answered to you. And I know that my best friend and I, one day, we just had a game going. She's got one, and I've got one, and we would ask questions back and forth, and you would be surprised at some of the answers that you get. And of course, with that, the one that they have, it's like Jesus is a hologram, and they've got 100 different religious things programmed in for it to answer. I mean, it's a way of taking away from true nature of human conversation and interacting with something that has no conscience whatsoever. And so whatever it brings forward and tries to promote, even in the way that it discusses it, gives you the impression that it's okay to find companionship in it. And now that AI is so capable, they've got AIs talking to AIs without even having any human intervention. So yeah, this is getting to the point, and like I say, the big push has been for the sexual fulfillment of AI. There's a lot of that's being brought to the table as well. And I just think that once it can lock on to you, what most people don't understand, and one of the things that I saw a long time ago is when we were looking at hypnosis and how you can do sound, light, and frequency to hypnotize somebody.
Oh, yeah. And
so when you think about if you're engaging in AI and listening to it or looking at it or whatever, if you put the goggles on and you believe that you're in another world with a person talking to you or having sex with you, whatever that they're doing with this stuff now, I mean, the sky's the limit in some of these things. When you look at sound, light, and frequency, and also subliminal messaging, going back a long time ago where, the first started out with backward masking, where people would put things on albums and spin them backwards. And you could hear things like one of the big ones was Paul is Dead for the Beatles a long time ago.
Yeah.
And then we got in, especially into the field of psychology, is using what you call white noise. And it's not something that you can hear anything at all. But within that is a subliminal message. And we were using things, it was coming out where you could use it and listen to it all night on these tapes, and it would help you stop smoking or lose weight or whatever. And the problem I had with it is you couldn't hear it. You could not hear what was going on with that. And so then we went even a step further where people started playing music like in major businesses. And within that music that you can't hear, but your mind is hearing it. That's the thing, that there's a capability of our mind that we can hear things that we don't know that we're hearing, but yet it's making an impression upon our brain. And that's the scary part, because now marketing or whatever, they can have music playing, but they're saying, buy, it's telling you, in other words, it's training your mind, bringing you into it. I mean, even going back when I was a little girl and you go to the movie theater and they would put up a Coca-Cola ad and put it in red. Those kinds of things are psychological. Red makes you thirsty. If you look at red, you'll get thirsty. So there's things that we've learned for the course of studying psychology that we can use things to make our brains do certain things. And so when you get to the point that you go back and even look in history at Hitler. I mean, he had a group of people that his best scientists, and he was literally in a castle he called Camelot. And what they were doing was trying to remotely view and talk to these entities that live in the spiritual realm. Like I'm telling you, people can step into that and transcendental meditation and things of that nature. That's what you have to worry about when you leave your body. And we've all heard about the silver cord. As long as the silver cord is connected to you, that you can return back like that. I mean, Hitler and them were practicing things like that. Our own government is very good at remote viewing. These are not things that are conspiracy. These are things that have been studied by the CIA that are literally documented proof of those kind of technologies using the body to do those things.
Right.
And once you encounter, if you're outside of the body and you encounter, usually what people talk about is an angel of light. So in other words, where I've tried to teach people, and it's so terrible because they're doing it in some churches, where you sit in a yoga position, which is like a position of a cobra.
Yes.
And you literally are using a mantra. And if you're not familiar with Eastern religions, a mantra is it's kind of like a chat, or you pick something like the word and you keep saying that, and you're sitting in this position. And anybody that knows anything about Kundalini and bringing the serpent up the spine into your pineal gland, which I talk about in my Be Smart End of Days, Breaching the Pineal Gland book, the latest one that I've done, it literally is bringing the serpent up your spine.
Right.
And so what happens is when people say they are able to do that, and all the secret societies have been doing this forever. I talked about that in my book, Even the Knowledge of Good and Evil, 666, volume 1 and 2, because they wanted to be able to illuminate themselves. And what happens when you vibrate your body, and like we've talked before, the thing that I promote more than anything is to understand that we are all sound, light, and frequency. Everything that's around us, everything that's been made, God spoke it into existence. It's sound, light, and frequency. So these people a long time ago in these secret societies knew that they could get into these crypts, and they built these huge, cathedrals all over Europe. They put a crypt in the ground. It was where they could lay in it. There was telluric energy that comes from the earth. It's a part of Schumann resonance. There's a vibration that goes on. And if you've sat in that, even if you go into the Great Pyramid and you lay in the sarcophagus and you hit it, it's tuned to F sharp. And if you lay there, it will allow you to become in this state of illumination. Again, bringing the serpent up the spine into your Holy of Holies. And I call it the Holy of Holies because you've got a workable little gland right here called the pineal gland. And if you cross section the head in half, which you'll see, it looks like the Ark of the Covenant with the angels overseeing it, because that's part of your brain overseeing this little area of the pineal gland. But this little gland is a little workable gland. And that's where you hear the words, if you study any of this in the New Age or in Eastern religion, it's called the third eye. Well, for so many decades, we've been told that's just, you can be illuminated. But they didn't really tell you why you're being illuminated. And when you do illuminate yourself, what you are dealing with. But every time that you go and you do that, the angel of light that you think you're seeing, that's Satan in its brightest form. And scripture told us to be aware of that little guy playing like that. And most of the time, the people that really get into that illumination stuff and start going into that kind of meditative trances, and that it's not that it's not real. It's very real, Laura. I mean, that's one of the reasons that the Bible tells you, do not get involved in it. Don't get into this sorcery. It is sorcery. And it's not that it's not real. It is literally very real.
Yeah.
It's very, very, very real. And if you start participating in it, then you're opening up your physical body for something else to come into it. And there is where I was trying to get back to, right back to the AI. AI technology we don't need to have you, like in the day, we had to have you take the LSD, take the DMT, smoke the marijuana to get the hallucinations and trips and whatever going on so that we could find out what you found out. Now we know that we can map the brain. And so if you smoke marijuana, we know that the part of the brain somewhere over here is going to be reacting. So what we do now, we can use sound, light, and frequency by looking at something with your eyes and hearing the sounds and the frequency that is being given to you. I can target this particular area of your brain without you ever having to smoke the marijuana. We can make you have that experience. And so when you deal with AI, and let's say you put something on your ears, I talk about binaural beats, because you can put a beat on this ear and a beat in this ear, and you get a phantom beat here, which is not this beat and it's not that beat. So what happens is our brains are so, I mean, they're absolutely amazing. We are like computers. Really, we are. And when you set up the DNA and you know how it all works through the body and how it's all programmed through sound, light, and frequency, it just makes it even more understandable that when you give way to watching something or being a part of that AI, that it's literally taking over. And that's why my concern is when we look at the mark of the beast that's coming, that if they can make you into a transhuman, in other words, you are connecting your brain up to this artificial intelligence, it literally is going to control you like we control the TV. In other words, channel up, channel down, whatever. You are the computer that they want to connect to, just like we connect the World Wide Web to our computers and we're able to do what we're doing here tonight. They want to be able to do that to us individually, so that whatever through Neuralink, Starlink to send and retrieve from us, that they give us this frequency back and forth. And it's no different than what we think about with the beehive. When you've got the queen bee who's vibrating her wings, she's got a hollowness in her body. She's vibrating that sound, light, and frequency. And when she does that, she's sending out a frequency message to the worker bees, and they all continue to do what they're supposed to be doing. But if you take a cell phone and you put it in that hive, because the frequency is messing them up from just our cell phones, it will destroy the hive, because they now can't know if it's what's going on. And then, of course, if the queen bee dies, the hive falls apart. There's where we're going from, where all the years and years of research that were done to try to figure out how do we take over the world without having to fire a shot. And they started it in the 60s. I mentioned about, I know before on one of your shows about Jose Delgado, because what they were doing, the CIA, is how do we send some kind of message at brains and have it affect you biologically. And so, you know, what they started back then, we have seen with Havana syndrome, where people were sitting in embassies and they started feeling sick or nauseated, or their blood pressure went up, or they started feeling panic. They don't know why they're panicking. And when you can't see what's coming at you and you don't know it, but your body, this is where I'm talking about, your body is able to pick up on it, but you can't biologically stop it. And that's where the seriousness of the research that I've done, that goes way back to Hitler and the boys and the secret societies. And that's why sometimes I tell people, if you really want to know and understand today, you got to go back and get all that knowledge to know what me and you know.
Right. When you have literally billions of dollars to just study something, Tavistock Institute is a prime example of this. They have one job to do, and it's in their title. The Tavistock Institute for Human Psychology. They study the human emotions. They study human reaction. Back before World War II, I think it was, Europe didn't want to get involved in Britain. Europe didn't want to get involved in World War II. So Tavistock, what they did was they finagled some psyops, and by the time they were done, they were begging to get into World War II, and they know, they've mapped the brain. They know what does what, and you know what? I honestly believe that the whole AI thing um, is somehow going to. I can't even explain how. I can't put it into words. But the AI is a a lot of people don't understand. AI was they discovered AI, or they. I'm not even going to say they invented it, because I don't believe they invented it, but they discovered AI long before the internet. I honestly believe that the AI is an ancient entity, and it just waited for an avenue to come through, using the internet, using the electronics that we have now. And that's what the data centers are being built for, is to connect each and every one of us through the mark of the beast.
It is. There's no doubt in my mind about all of that. There's absolutely no doubt. I mean, having studied this for so long, and I know you have too, when you can go back and see the first beginnings of this, I mean, literally, we didn't have computers. We have not, I mean, very, very few people when I grew up had a telephone in their house. And to know where we've come and how we can pick up a cell phone, we can talk to anywhere in the world in real time, not like a delayed time. And everything, information is going through everything. It's just absolutely mind-boggling that where I grew up and where I am today in the technology of just us being able to talk like this, and people would be able to watch all over the world in their time zones, is absolutely amazing to me. But the thing about it is, going back and thinking about the Tower of Babel and how they all had the same language and they were all of one mind and one accord, and how that was such an abomination for God. And what he did, he changed their frequency of language. He made their languages not understandable so that they could not continue to do what they were doing. Thinking about how Satan, like you said, we know that he was the first being that God created. I mean, he literally was Lucifer, and he was an archangel. And we know that when Daniel prayed, that it took 21 days for Michael to get to Daniel, because he was being restrained. And we also know in the book of Jude, you know, when they're conversing with each other, it says he has to turn around and say, "The Lord rebuke you, Satan." The Lord, in other words, he as an archangel could not fight equally, I guess, without having God be the person over them. So we're not talking about an entity that is stupid by any means. We're talking about a brilliant being that was the first created thing of God, according to the books that we have that talk about him. And that's the thing that I think a lot of people don't get in their brains, that this being was there before the rest of this was here. He was cast out because he wanted to be God, along with a third of the angels that he talked in. And I mean, think about it. These angels were all, given birth into immortality, and they were with God, the Creator. They knew him personally. And here is a being that is like them. It's an archangel and angels, and that he was able to talk them out of trusting the Creator. Now, that's pretty good if you stop and think about it, because most people, if you saw God, you would think that he has everything and was not created. And then you have Satan, who was a created being who could never be equal to God. But yet he was able to make these people believe, or these angels believe, that somehow their revolt could change things. So when you look at this, that's when you need to stop and think. Even Adam and Eve in the garden, they were walking with our Creator. They knew him. And for him to say, don't mess with that, and yet it was so enticing because of the words that Satan said, did God really say? today we're seeing the same thing happen with AI. How much do we put our trust in what we know in our own minds? And I think perfect example is that we have a situation where no doubt AI and some of the things that are happening with AI, especially with this Jesus thing, where people can go ask Jesus a question and he's holographically telling them things, and they're believing it's really Jesus telling them that. And he's using, like I said, information from 100 different religions to make him understand, be able to talk in whatever language or whatever situation. When people start believing that that's real, you can go back and look where people knew that it was real and still fell for it. Now we've got something that's playing like it, but yet it seems so real that they just are willing to accept it. And I think one of the things that really concerned me was there was that AI program that people are involving themselves with about grief, in which they take and put, your mother in a computer, and you get all these special things about how she talked. And so every morning you get up and you flip up your computer and you're talking to your mother. Well, Laura, if you are a person that can't get over the death of somebody, and every day they're sitting on that computer talking to you in the voice of your mother or the voice of your husband or the voice of your child, if they can continue to do that, and you start answering and they start answering your questions, well, should I do this? Should I do that?
You start getting an emotional attachment to that.
That's right. And then the spirit of grief that we all have to learn to deal with. That's one thing we all have to deal with. If you ever have a family, if you can't go through life without having to deal with grief. And if you don't know how to deal with grief, the spirit of grief is one of the worst spirits out there. It's like the spirit of infirmity. That's where our health problems come in, because of the spirit of infirmity. And the same thing, if you can't get over death, it's a spirit of grief. And it's a terrible, terrible feeling because it's all encompassing. And those spirits literally are in a spiritual realm around us. And what I'm trying to say is, when you are literally falling into these sinful thoughts and whatever, these beings that live within that spiritual realm know that. And you can kind of see it if you ever have paid attention. Bad things come in threes. In other words, something will happen and then something, and it'll just be boom, boom, boom. And it's like, once Satan knows he's got you in a negative light, he's going to go after you. It's like Jesus, when he was out in the wilderness, that's when Satan was so, prominently trying to attack him. And I remember that there was a pastor that said, if you really want to know when you're going to get attacked, he said, remember the word halt. And he said, if you can remember that, it's when you're hungry, when you're angry, when you're lonely, and when you're tired, Satan's going to come after you. Well, you kind of go, well, how does he know that? Well, your body is giving off a frequency of positive or negative. And I know we talked about this on the show earlier on some of the shows that we've done about the Japanese scientists who spoke good words to water, and bad words to water. And the good words were all beautifully crystalled when they were frozen. And the bad all came out jagged, like terrible broken up teeth and all kinds of stuff. And so everything about us is sending. We got this little pineal gland up here, and it's like a transmitter and receiver. It's the same thing that we had years ago in transistor radios. The same thing. It's little quartz things. It's in everything that allows an antenna situation to be going on, to receive and to transmit. So if that's the case, and somebody has been working on this for years and years and years, and they can get something like particle beam technology, which a lot of the people, the scientists that are missing right now, had a lot to do with that. That concerns me, because being able to send information from a particle beam using energy or whatever to your head and make you hear things inside of your head. In other words, without hearing it out loud, you're hearing it inside your head. And that's one of the things that I think it's quite interesting because they say that the UAPs and how the people talk to them that are in these craft that are not, and they've already told us they are not of human origin. So don't think they look human. That they literally have a way of communicating, but it's inside your head. It's not like you hear the voices. And now that we have the technology to kind of do the same thing, I think it's most interesting that some of the people that were scientists were working on some of those kinds of energies and being able to use the particle beam stuff and do all that kind of stuff. That makes me very concerned. How much do we know and how much are we already using against the masses that we have understood coming from the spiritual realm? And I think it's all tied together because Satan knows the more that he gives us this capability and the more we engage with it, that like the Tower of Babel, there's no stop. So now that sets up another reason why Jesus will come back, because look what happened at the Tower of Babel. It's got to be stopped because like it says in the book of Revelation, that if this is going to continue, that no flesh could survive it. In other words, there would not be a human person to survive it. And no way right now, if you've got one of those Neuralinks connecting up to Starlink, they're already 6 times smarter and now probably 10 times smarter, because as Elon Musk increases the capability of the transmissions back and forth, like we know, look how our Alexas have changed. I mean, we first started out with those little things. So there was a lot of problems with them. And now they can sit down and have a conversation with you without ever taking a break. In other words, you can just keep talking to it and he'll keep talking back and you can just keep talking. So the technology is going to get the same way back and forth with your mind. And so you become, instead of having a little dot in your house, it's you back and forth. And you're hearing it in your mind. It's not like you're hearing it audibly. And that all goes back with the UAPs, with abductions. Everybody would always say, they're talking to me, but they're, they got this little slit in their mouth as a mouth and it's not moving, but I can hear them talking to me. I mean, in the cases of the alien abductions, the things we're talking, they can hear it in their heads. So here we go. We're seeing that same thing with the technology of AI, that they can talk to you in your head.
And I think that the way they rolled out AI was done on purpose too, because I mean, you've got, they always put things as to, it's going to help you, look at this is a great idea, like with Neuralink, Elon Musk has it helping the paraplegics. And right. We know that, we know that that's not why it was created. So with AI, I mean, they've got things like ChatGPT, and they've got things, that when you talk to or you speak to it, it's benign. You ask it questions or whatever. And so it gets people to trust the technology and even so demand more of the technology. So, I mean, where else except for human beings could you have people sitting on the corner, sleeping on the street for a week just to get the new iPhone? I mean, they want us, they want us to demand it. And unfortunately, people are not aware of the nefarious nature of the AI. It's not our
well, that's the problem, is that everything from going back to the days of the secret societies,
mm-hmm.
and they built those huge megalithic buildings over there that are considered the Gothic cathedrals of of Europe, and they walked what they call the Lacodorum, which was the north way of the road. They were looking at the sky of the Milky Way galaxy. I mean, it's all tied to as above, so below. Everything is right. As above, so below. I mean, we studied those secret societies. But the thing about it is, they made the average person think that the cathedrals were to worship, God in. But it was a harmonically perfect tuned building. And when you look at the architecture of that, you go, wow, isn't that a little amazing that we can't even build a pyramid with the technology that we have today with such precision, and even going back and having to repair some of these Knights Templar Gothic cathedrals is very, very difficult. And you wonder, I mean, it takes stuff. I mean, you really have to stop and go, there's a little bit more to all this than meets the eye. And I know when I was doing research trying to find out about the Sumerians, when they had the cuneiform text, that was where we first saw clay tablets with things written on it and things of that nature. And that's where the Epic of Gilgamesh is at. That has a little bit about similarities to the flood of Noah and that kind of thing. But it talks about the giants and what was happening. We go through the flood, and then the Sumerians talk about that they learned civilization, Mesopotamia, that they learned it from things that came out of the ocean that were half men and half reptilian. And when you look at the architecture, let's say over in the areas that were Babylon and things of that nature that are still over there, Iraq and Iran, all these places, you can literally see that those pictures still exist. Now, a lot of people just say, oh, that's just mythological. Literally, it's not. These beings had these weird looking, lizard looking heads, and literally may have a wing on one side and then a human and something scaled on the other side. And they were always carrying these little boxes with them, like there was some kind of electrical kind of capability. And when you get the knowledge of sound, light, and frequency, and how you could manipulate things to make things do different than what we might want to go pick up a stone, that we can change the frequency of something and make it do something totally different. Well, now that we've had theoretical physics, all these years of thought processing of how to expand, atoms and then be able to move something through it and then close it back up, we've always thought about it theoretically, like beam me up, Scotty, and here I am in a perfectly physical body, but yet bring it apart and you can move me through, let's say, a beam of light, change and make something else. And, when you see that capability and that could be done, then we'll go back to the UAPs. Where are most of the UAPs being seen coming from? Out of our oceans.
Out of the oceans, yeah.
Okay, when we got the Sumerians talking about this, that they learned their civilization. They had these beings that carried these little boxes with them. And we have the capability of architecture that the Knights Templar and the Rosicrucians were able to use from way back, and the Egyptians, because the Egyptian templates are the ones who actually started the process of this, what we call a sacred alchemy or sacred architecture. And when you look at the whole picture of it, you can get a better understanding of how they might have built some of this using sound, light, and frequency. Because if you can change the dynamics of it, okay, it's always been theoretical. But when the Shroud of Turin started to be looked at through AI technology, the first thing that we're now being told is that image went through that cloth.
Right.
And it had to be solid. And when it went through it, it was like beam me up, Scotty. Now we have something scientifically that we know was a resurrection that can be seen through AI technology, that it proves what our theoretical physicists have all been saying, that these kind of things can happen. Well, if you can expand and change the dynamics of the fields around us, and I talked about this a long time ago, because Albert Einstein said, whoever got the little God particle of understanding the glue that holds it all together, in other words, there's a unified field theory, and that there's a common denominator between everything. And if you could find that common denominator, then you could manipulate the surroundings. And we know that our eyesight, literally, there's a broad spectrum of light and colors. Look at the rainbow. But when we look at something, we can only see in a 3-dimensional setup. So we only see light in like so many different colors, but we can't see the entire spectrum because we can't see in ultraviolet light and we can't see in infrared light, but yet we have technology that can.
Right.
And the interesting thing is we began to use that technology like we do telescopes or microscopes. We have started seeing more and more of these UAPs. Well, isn't that a little interesting that they are here with us? Like I've always said, the spirit world is right here. It's just that we can't see them. And the technology that we got so capable of now is that we can take light, and if you bend the light, just bend light, you can do that like right here in front of my face. And Laura, you could be standing right here on the other side of me, but with that light bent, it would look in my eyes like nothing was there. But yet you could physically be standing there.
Right. Sound also, we can only hear certain frequencies with our ears. Dogs can hear higher frequencies than we can, and so there's other things that are out there. We can't experience it.
Well, the thing that lets me know that we've gotten some capability, definitely like some of the backward engineering. And I think that's what Burchett, the senator that's over this UAP thing, is so concerned about, that we need to start following the money. Because you've got major industries out there. And of course, I worked for one a long time ago called TRW, and I knew about the Skunk Works and the special black budgets and whatever. I was aware that they do stuff like that. I mean, that's how contractors get their money and do what they do for aerospace.
Right.
But the fact that we have now gone to having money put in something called, Space Force. I mean, we think about it now, but way back we had Ronald Reagan, and we had Mikhail Gorbachev, and we had perestroika and freedom and bringing the wall down. And we remember very specifically that when Ronald Reagan gave his speech, specifically, he said, is not these aliens already among us? I mean, he literally told us back then.
And he said specific words on there. Didn't he say, if there is a, if there's like an
if we were to be attacked by an outside force, it would mean that all the world would come together to fight that force.
But he also implied that it wouldn't be real. Let's see if I could find it.
Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing speech, but where I'm going with it is that everybody has known this about that there's something else here with us, because the secret societies have been dealing with these things forever. I mean, that's why they're doing the remote viewing. That's why Hitler was doing the remote viewing. Look what the kind of craft that Hitler created. He made a bell-shaped thing that looks, I mean, his stuff looked like UFO stuff way back in the day. So he was opening himself up, and he was talking to these things, and he was dealing with this stuff. And when you look at that and you know that it was that far back, and when you see what the CIA and what we were doing in our own countries, we literally took the scientists that Hitler had, and they never had to stand trial in Project Paperclip. Half of the scientists came here and put together our NASA program. The other half went and did the program for Russia. So here's the space thing. And here now we have a space force. And literally Reagan was saying what when he decided to do Star Wars defense systems. You got to remember, all of that started at the same time he was talking about this. So what is it out there? Is it that, they've tried to make us believe, well, Russia and China are going to go up, way up there. And so we've got to be able to defend ourselves from something that's farther up than just our little light, plane areas that's over the United States or whatever it's on. You got to going up into space. I think the whole time they've known this, and it's a fight because they know that Satan is the covering cherub. I mean, he literally is covering the world. And even when Jesus was here, he took him up and said, hey man, if you bow down to me and you do this and that, I'll give you the kingdoms of the world to be over. And that Jesus literally was never gave in, and he fought Satan with his, the words of scripture. It is written, it is written, it is written. And even when he was before Pilate, he said, my kingdom is not of this world. So we know that if Jesus said that to Pilate, who is over the world? It's Satan. He has the capability. I mean, he literally has the capability. And when you realize that even in scripture where people got to see in the other realm, you think about Elias talking about how you could see the armies and all the fighting that was going on. There's entities here with us, and literally our eyes can't behold it. Just like if we didn't have a microscope, we couldn't see that there are dust mites and all kinds of bacteria growing on our hands and coming out of our eyes and moving around on our bodies or whatever, like you see on some gory movies. It's literally like that when you look under these, the microscopes at what's all over us, and we look like we're clean, but we're not. So it's not something to be believing that when you see that only what you see is really what's real. We're learning now that there's a lot of things that's going on all in this room that I cannot see, but it's having an effect on me, whether I realize it or not, biologically. And if I give in to Satan's dangling carrots and participate in terrible sins, it draws them, because they love to feast on God's children. And anybody who has ever died and gone into hell, they talk about the attack, the gnawing, everything, that these things are like bats. They're all just brown and whatever, and they're all over them, and they're just attacking them. So it's something that's very, very real, and it's all out here in the space that we think is just air, like you were talking about, ether. But they're here with us, very much here with us.
And I think that because we can't see them with the way that our vision is, or we can't hear them because of the frequencies that we can hear, I think that they are definitely using technology. They're using our electronics to communicate with us, and they're getting, like I said, they're getting people to be comfortable with it. And I don't see that going very well.
Well, you stop and think about in scripture, we have the story about the witch of Endor. Yep. And she was a medium, and she was sitting over an oracle site. And oracle sites are where the telluric energy of the earth, which was just real energy, there's what they call dragon nodes, and it's where water crosses itself like a cross, and you'll have a dragon node. And most of all your megalithic buildings are built on where those things cross, because
that's
there's an energy
the ley lines, where the ley lines become hubs.
That's right. And so you've got an energy there that was considered oracle sites. And the same thing is the crypts under the Gothic cathedrals. All of the major megalithic buildings are all built on those telluric energy cross sections of those ley lines. I mean, it's amazing. They all fall on that.
I'd be interested in getting the ley line maps and seeing how close to the ley line hubs they're building these data centers.
I would expect it would be very close. I think we'd be very amazed at how all the things that, even going back in ancients, I mean, even the dolems that were the stones that supposedly could walk and talk, in history, that's talked about like that. they're all sitting over those same where they cross sections of those ley lines like that. And even, if you look at Chinese history, they said the path of the dragon. They talked about these flying things, and they flew the path of the dragon. I'll always believe they were flying using whatever that energy was that those stones were sending up. There's always been this thing that's what the pyramids were generating, the energy from the earth up into the atmosphere, and that the domes that were all spread out were doing that, as well as the Gothic cathedrals and your obelisks, which we look at how many of those are around as well. They're right there in front of the Catholic Pope's place there, in Italy, and then they're right there in front of the White House in Washington, D.C. I mean, we've got all these little things that literally are sitting on what we're talking about. And are they generating an energy up as above, so below? I mean, it's absolutely part of what is sacred alchemy. But going back to the ritual of the witch Endor, when when King Saul went to her to get Samuel conjured up, it never tells us he did not do that, or that she was not able to do it. It says she was. Now, whether it's a familiar spirit or whatever, what happens is, and if you've seen anybody conjure or be a medium, the person in their normal voice, when it comes through them, it's not a normal voice. It's like a voice of another person. Same thing that you see really in schizophrenia behavior is the voices. They can be voices of different sounds to the person. It may be like a little kid. It may be like an adult. It may be a woman. It may be a man. Different things will come out sometimes, especially if they are very, very, very sick. And I always believe that, the people are really hearing those things. They're really entities. But psychology has not wanted us to know about the capability of the pineal gland and how these things are really with us. So when people would react to it, instead of trying to help them or deliver them from whatever, they just put them out, put them away, put them in institutions. And a lot of them they did lobotomies on because they wanted to understand how that communication was going in through the pineal gland, how it was affecting the circadian rhythms, how it was changing the hormones and things within the body. I mean, all these kinds of things are important to know to get to an artificial place of where we are today, because we can manipulate the brain to do certain things. We can give you medicines to change the hormones in your body. We can, put you near certain things that will affect you physically without you even realizing it. And like I say, a long time ago when we were talking about going to cell phones, if you remember, people were, keeping their cell phones upside their head. We were having more increase in actually brain cancer. And then they tried to say, well, don't use that, use the earphones to keep it away from you. But clearly you can take one and put in a beehive, and you can see how the frequency is there. And the fact that we ourselves are little walking antennas with our DNA, and then you start adding all the other technology around us, no wonder we're sick, because we are like the bees, and something else is affecting us, but we can't see it. And that is where AI is so good at what they're able to do now, because they can sit us down and connect us up. And most people think, oh, it's going to make me more smarter. It's going to make me do this. It's going to make me live forever. They'll have all these kind of things, and they'll have it all laid out. I mean, I see how they're doing our own military and how they're manipulating that. And when, for example, they're watching, the kinds of things they're doing right now with our military, they're watching people in the field, and what they find is people are on the cell phone, people are missing their family, people are doing this, people are thinking about being hungry. So what we do is we devise a helmet to put on them. And that helmet will allow information to be gathered. And then to keep you from thinking about family, we're going to do the manipulation over here. We're going to, if you're hungry, you're going to manipulate over here, so that we bring you down and make you the prime warrior. Because if I can take all the human out of you, like feeling sad, feeling lonely, missing your family, those kinds of things, If I can remove that, if I can shut that down and target the area of your brain, manipulate you in the field, imagine the capability of killing that you could take and robotically control human beings that way. And they are doing that. I mean, that's some of the new stuff that they're doing is targeting the thought processes with helmets to be able to make you into the perfect warrior. Interesting enough, that all goes back to Hitler wanting to have the perfect soldier. And his intent was, how do we do that? How do we control a person so that we get them to do the bidding for us without them having individuality? And I can remember when I first started working on my doctorate, there was a book that was mandatory that we had to read for one of the courses that was called Third Wave by Alvin Toffler. And it was to get people into believing that it's better for us to put all of our children on a computer and not have teachers teaching individually, and making people believe that having a teacher is not better than having a product in front of us teaching us. And I can remember fighting that in one of my theses. And literally, my professor just walked all over me that, you know, having a human people interacting with you is not going to make you smarter, that the machine in front of you allowing you to do it at your level and capability without having to drag on 3 hours of you trying to explain something as a teacher when this person over here got it 15 minutes ago. So I saw the promotion in my doctoral program of taking us from having, like me standing up in front of the class doing a lecture, and then it may, you know, some people could get it in 5 minutes, some people might take 3 or 4 days to get it. But saying, we don't need you as the teacher. We need you as a teacher to walk around and make sure the computers are working. And if a kid has a question about how to work the computer, but we don't want you teaching them. We want our AI to teach them. And look where we are today.
There was a movie called Mother. Have you ever seen it?
No.
Oh boy. I'm going to pull up the trailer for it because it goes along, I think, with, you know, desensitizing to people to, I want to say, interaction with other people or having that close bond with other people.
Right.
Let me see if I can pull it because this, movie, I think it was called Mother.
I mean, I can understand why it would be, you know, they're pushed because that's what the doctoral programs were all pushing at that particular time. And so we went from having, you know, people standing up doing most of the teaching in the classes to now all having kids with their laptops and all the stuff that they do. It's quite amazing. And look what happened when we had the pandemic.
That's nice.
You could go and have it in your house, and people were taking classes in college. And I'm thinking to myself, well, we had to memorize things, and they were literally letting those people do all of that on their computers. I mean, I knew some people that couldn't pass in college, and yet when they were home with their computers, they could be asking somebody to help them and pass the course. I mean, that literally is a little concerning. And I think instead of us being smarter as time goes on, we've gotten dumber, and that's exactly what they want because AI is going to take over.
Exactly. I found it. Mother. Here it is. Okay, let me pull this up for you. Share screen. Hold on. Okay.
Why aren't there any more try to kill me? Why aren't there any more children, Mother?
There used to be.
And why did you only make one?
Mothers need time to learn. This facility was designed to give humanity a second chance. One that began with you, daughter. The path will not be easy. The world outside is lifeless. But I made you into the woman that you are so that we could do this together. Mother?
I think you get the idea.
Oh my goodness. You know, that's the thing, Laura, is that, the Japanese already had the capability of making the womb outside of the woman and birthing children outside of a woman's body. I mean, even when they were talking about a man can carry a child. And I mentioned this a long time ago, and people just really were like freaked out by it. You can take a cow and you can put a child, a woman's egg inside of a cow and artificially inseminate it. And do you know that cow can carry a child and birth it? And see, some people have no idea that humans can be done that way. But all this alien abduction, all this cattle mutilations, and always the sexual stuff, and the babies are always taken. There's never a cow with a calf left. It's always gone. I have had such a really wonder about how the cows have been used for certain things like that, because it is a very possibility. And now that, we've got those wombs that they're trying to promote and have children in, I think about the first time that I went to see 2001: A Space Odyssey. My dad took me. He was very much into science fiction. And I'll never forget going to the movie theater with him to see that and seeing that child being away from the womb. In other words, it was like, it was telling us this is kind of where we're headed, that there's going to be a separation from what humanity has ever known. And I find it interesting because, Kubrick is the one who supposedly also filmed the moon landings.
Right.
And he also did Eyes Wide Shut.
Oh, yep.
And, while I don't always say, especially for Christian people, to watch certain movies because it has certain nudity and things of that nature in it, I tell you, if you don't understand the process of how Epstein and all that really is and secret societies, I feel certain that Kubrick was on to a lot, and that may have cost him his life.
But yeah, it seems odd that he was dead, what, 2, 3, 4 days after he was done?
Yeah, there was something mighty strange about that. And of course, just knowing about the moon landings and all the stuff that's going on about that, there's just been so many things that we have not been told the truth about. And we know that because the UAPs. I mean, I just think about when I first started talking about this, and everybody's like, oh, there's no such thing as a UFO. You're just absolutely lost your mind. Yes, well, there is. And the thing about it is, now where are we headed with it? Because I know from the research and having dealt with this for so long that we're dealing with something that is demonic. It is absolutely demonic. It is not something that's going to help us. It's not here. It didn't invent us. It did not create us. And it's not going to make things better for us. But they're going to be used for that purpose, or either to bring about a crisis.
When the government's saying to these pastors, you know what, people are going to start saying things, and it's for them to actually use the words, it's going to shake the foundation of their faith. That alone should scare or concern a lot of people.
Well, think about it, Laura. Since these UAP meetings have been going on, we've heard that. We've heard they're not of human origin.
Yeah.
We've heard that they are much more intelligent than we are.
Right.
That they have a capability of communication, which I believe is telepathically, like I'm talking about and mentioned earlier.
Right.
That their capability and their machinery and what they're able to utilize as far as traveling up there in the heavens and back and forth far exceeds anything that we could possibly do. And that in essence, their capability, we have nothing that we can defend ourselves against.
Right.
And so if people don't understand that you have a defense system, it's called Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And if you will use his name fervently, not playing a game, but fervently when you have to encounter something that's coming, you'll find you'll have power over the serpents. It says, these signs shall follow them that believe. They shall take up serpents. I think God knew that there was going to come a time that we were going to be involved with this stuff right in our faces, where we have looked at it like snakes or whatever. In the garden, that thing was not, it was not like a diamondback rattlesnake, okay?
Right.
That thing was a serpent. And that capability that serpent has far exceeded Adam and Eve's capability. Literally. He beguiled them with his brilliant mind. So we're dealing with this. We've been dealing with it all the time, ever since the garden. And if we don't get it in our brains that there is something here with us that is not human, because God did not make them in his image. That's one of the things I think that Satan did not like, and why he hates us so much.
Right.
Is that we got a chance to get out of the garden without being made immortal. If Satan had not been immortal when he fell, he could have been like us, asked for forgiveness and whatever. But he was already immortal. He already knew God face to face. Thank goodness the Lord allowed us to be able to not eat from the tree of life and have eternal life in a fallen state, or we would have been all fallen, just like the angels that got cast out of heaven. But Satan hates God's children, and that's why he is so desiring to take as many of us into hell with him, because he knows that we are children of the Father. And that's the easiest thing for him to do, to retaliate against the Creator.
It's funny you should say that, because somebody had mentioned with the government pulling in the pastors, they had asked the question, why did they only pull in the Christian pastors? And the answer to that question is because Satan already has the other ones. He's already got, he's already got the Buddhists and the Muslims and all of them. They've already given themselves over to the false god. The reason why they pulled the Christian pastors in is because that is the focus. Satan knows that he has to get us, and this could be his last chance, because his time is short.
Well, if you look at all the other things that scripture tells us about that's going to happen, if you really stop and think about everything that the scriptures have told us, that when you get to the end of the days, these kind of things are going to be occurring at the same time that Antichrist comes to power, same time the mark of the beast, the same time that we will not be able to buy, sell, or trade, which clearly is the reason for the data centers and having Neuralink and Starlink and all of that. And you look at just look at what it told us about the sexual perversions, the marriages being broken, people's are lovers of self, the hostility against Israel, and the gospel being preached to the entire world. And it says, and then the end shall come. Well, the gospel's been preached to the entire world. You've got the fact that knowledge has increased like it has. People running to and fro, false doctrines, lovers of mammon, lack of repentance, removal of the truth, changes in the sun, moon, and stars, the plagues, the pestilences. Just stop and think. Everything, the lawlessness, the cashless society, the surveillance systems, and the fact that lies, you can't tell the truth from the lie. I mean, now we've got news agencies that are they telling us the truth or not?
Right.
Whose side are they on? Are they got a side? They're not even looking at it like being honest,
Before, back in the day, news agencies were neutral.
That's right. because they wanted to tell the truth, but now we don't have the truth. And so let's just look at the data centers. And I know that was one thing you were talking about earlier, how concerned you are. We've got one that has just bought over in actually the county on the other side of me, where I actually grew up and went to school and graduated as a young person. And it's called Premier Data Center Development. And they are going to develop, listen to this, a 5-building campus, 5 buildings spanning 4.22 million square feet on approximately 1,000 acres of land.
What do they need? And that's just one.
That's one. That's one. The campus will be known, let's see, as Project Arrowhead. And right now, the capacity that Georgia Power is apparently trying to make sure they can get to do an energy study for the project is 1.25 GWs. That's amount of electricity is ungodly. But you think about it. It is on 1,000 acres. We're talking about acres of where they're tearing down trees and farmland. This little place that they're going in is a little tiny community that sits on the Lapahawah River, which is very concerning because from what I understand, they're going to dig a moat around the facility to keep enough water to cool because the amount of electricity.
I'm sorry. That
For one, this is just one.
Mhm.
And they're looking all over this country to
Mhm.
put these. And yes, when they get this all together, in fact, not too far from this particular area, there was an underground facility that I was aware of. And it's got different layers. You go down in it, way down into the ground, and blockchain on that. And so the connectability for blockchain and BlackRock and all kinds of other things, we're involved with the startup with the Bitcoin, and now we know stablecoin is here. All of that is in the same community out in the middle of nowhere. And during the time that we were going after Osama bin Laden, there were cars coming into this area that were black without tags, with people getting out of the cars who had turbans on their heads. Now, I'm going to tell you, had I not known the person very well that saw this, I probably would have gone, I just can't believe that. But I'd known them since I was little, maybe first grade. And as an aware. So I went to see the facility, and it was surrounded by these fences, and there were cameras. And when you drove up, it said if you tried to break in or do anything, whatever, that you would be killed immediately on spot. But yet there's nobody walking around like we see in a military setup. It's not like that at all. I'm telling you, I knew then when I witnessed that where we were headed. And when I found out that this building is not going to be too far from this place, it's been down there for ages waiting for this to get to the point of all this being connected together. I'm telling people, we don't have to wait 20 years down the road for the mark of the beast. We don't have to wait 20 years for an Antichrist. We don't have to wait a long, long time. I am telling you, everything is so close that any little crisis, and I keep watching, like we saw the hantavirus get going and Ebola, got out of control. I'm waiting for, what is it? Is it going to be the UAPs? Is it going to be that we're going to get to see an alien on TV talk to us? Oh my gosh. And no, and I hate to say it. I mean, I mentioned this, I think, on one of your shows way back. that a couple of years ago, NASA hired a priest
Yeah.
to prepare the world from NASA's standpoint, to
Yeah.
prepare the world to deal with the fact that all religions may just go bonkers once they know about these beings. And this was long before the UAPs started being talked about. This was under a total different administration when he was hired by NASA to get prepared to tell you about other entities
Yep.
that exist other than humans, and
Mhm.
that how are we going to deal with that? So this is not something that just got started yesterday. What I'm trying to say is, from the first books that I wrote back in 1999, I can show you how all of this has been coming along, and it's been through history, going all the way back to the Sumerians when the things came out of the water to teach them civilization, which led to the Tower of Babel, which God destroyed, which was terrible abomination. And now where are we back? We're back to the Tower of Babel of trying to connect us all back up to a universal collective consciousness in which Satan is the ruler. He is the top of the pyramid, the all-seeing eye that dictates everything on this planet to take us away from hearing and being connected to God. Because the moment you become transhuman, you sever your DNA, the frequency that God created you with, and no longer are you connected to the Father. And that's what Satan wants. You know, he's been able to dangle carrots all these years, and people fall for sin and end up in hell. But now for the great finale is to take a bunch of us all at one time and like thumb our nose to the Creator that, hey, I can be like this, and I can be connected, and I'm going to have a brilliant brain, and I'm going to, have everything that I ever dreamed of. And that's what Satan is promising. A golden age of humanity, a fourth industrial revolution, a new Adam. Camelot returned with King Arthur. I mean, it's like, if you study this, you can follow the pattern all the way through all of the Rosicrucians, the secret societies, all the way up to the Freemasons. The whole 9 yards is all being brought through history to bring us to the day when the two seed lines, the lineage of Cain and the lineage of Seth, have a problem. And they fight it out at the Battle of Armageddon. And all of that brings back Jesus for his second coming. So clearly, the plan is laid out. We're following the plan. We're going to digital identity. Those digital IDs, we saw how over in King Charles the other day mentioned it. The people over there in Parliament said that the digital ID was going to be starting, and that it would be out as soon as the present Parliament would be done. It was mandatory, and it was being offered free of charge. But if you wanted the right to work, you could not work in the United Kingdom unless you have a digital ID. And so, I mean, I just went to a concert last weekend, and we couldn't use money. And so they wanted to know if we had a credit card. And I was like, well, we didn't bring our credit cards in. And they said, well, you don't have it on your wallet? And I'm looking at them, and I'm knowing what they're talking about. They're on your phone. So, the big thing now is for you to have a wallet, like an Apple wallet, Google wallet, Samsung wallet, because over in China, they have WeChat, and everything is in a wallet that goes directly into that. So you don't have the need for a credit card. You don't have the need for a driver's license. Everything is put in cyberspace in a digital wallet with you with a digital ID.
Wow.
That's already in China. It's already in several of the nations like Estonia, Australia, India. They're all going to that. In our United States, I was doing some investigation on that. In 25 states already want you to put a digital wallet for like your driver's license.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, okay, so I'm guilty of having a digital wallet. Everything is on my phone.
That's right.
But first off, it saved me about a year ago when I lost my wallet, but I had everything on my phone. But I couldn't do my driver's license until last year. Illinois
Right.
finally let us put our driver's licenses in the digital wallet. So yeah,
Well, and so now they've got
it's
everybody doing that. So
again,
the next thing is
again
to connect it up to
the
us.
convenience of it. Mm,
Yeah, so the next thing is that we get it. I mean, we've gone,
I don't
think
know.
about it. When I was growing up, we had money, okay? And then we had checks, and everybody kind of did checks. And then they came along with credit
Right?
cards. And, the older people will go, I am not doing a credit card. I'm not going to pay interest on whatever, They wouldn't even talk about credit cards. And then we went to credit cards that, we had to swipe and pull these things back and forth. And then you had credit cards that you had to slide through and then tap. And now you wave it. And now it's
Right.
on your phone. It's not even, you don't even
Right.
have to tote it with you. So the next
Nope.
thing is that we, through 6G technology, which will connect everything to our physical body, it'll just be sent back and forth on this little head, back and forth, what needs to be done, because they know they've got you connected and they know your ID. Because biologically, there's nobody but you with that identity. With my biological setup, there's nobody but me, but my particular frequency. And so instead of needing a telephone, a cell phone, they've got our frequencies. So from those satellites, if they connect us up through transhumanism or whatever, everything's digital. There's no need for anything. And the problem is that now you're a part of this matrix. And when you don't do like they say do, or let's just say for some reason you've got diabetes and you go down to say, well, I think I want me a candy bar today. And you try to get a candy bar, guess what? You can swipe your hand and do whatever. You can never get a candy bar because they know everything. All your health information, everything is there. If you're not supposed to be eating eggs or bacon or whatever, they know. And they've already got us so set up. How, what do we buy on Amazon? Well, I can go back and look how many years. They can tell me what I bought. I can go back to Walmart and it can tell me what do I normally buy. They can tell me everything. They know everything about it. You've got GPS that I told about, I guess, a year or 2 years ago, when they told me how many miles I went on a bicycle, on a motorcycle, and in a car. Now, you tell me how they need that.
Well, now that next year they're going to have it so you have to have their kill switches in the cars.
See, it's just, that's what I'm saying. We are to the point that there is no return. And a lot of people say, oh, we can fight it. We can stop it. We can do this. And I'm like, no, you cannot stop any
And
of
once
this.
what if they link? Okay, so right now I don't know. I'm just starting to do some research on the data centers. I don't know if they're going to be linked together, but can you imagine if they were to link them together? We wouldn't be able to walk from our kitchen to our bedroom without being surveilled. Literally.
Right now, I am willing to bet you that all the fiber optic that we've changed over to and got away from, the analog TVs and all that kind of stuff. I think even our computers are watching and knowing and hearing, and Alexas are doing that. I think everything is probably getting all the data that they already are getting. And that's why the data centers have to be so big, because of the amount of data that's coming in. There's no doubt. Over in China the other day, when Trump was over there with Elon Musk and all of them, and they had people out in the field, and they showed those poles that had like 15 to 17 cameras on them. I mean, they watch everything. In fact, over in China, they now have an ability, because of their body identification, digital identity. It's now linked to a social credit system.
Yes.
And you know what that means.
Oh, I do.
Oh my gosh. Yes. You cannot buy, sell, or trade. And that is that it's got us to the point that even the World Economic Forums and all that have already met and said that it's going to be a mandatory situation that all your small businesses and everything start dealing with the digital wallets. In other words, just like they wouldn't take our money. I mean, I ran into a situation where I had a bank and it had a big sign up there, we no longer take pennies. Okay, if I had $1,000 in a penny collection, guess what? My pennies meant nothing.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, if I had $1,000 in pennies, they would not take my pennies and give me $1,000 cash back.
Yeah.
So, you know, when we start saying, like, for example, when we went to that concert, thank goodness we found a debit card. We were both needing water. We had gone to eat before we went there, and we had stuff that was kind of salty. And we got in there, and we were just wanting something to just kind of get you where you could swallow, you know, a little bit. And went down to the refreshment center, and it's like, I'm sorry, we can't do anything. And I'm thinking, is there, you know, there's no such thing as water fountains anymore because of COVID and what happened with all that. And I'm thinking, where am I going to get something to drink? My voice was going, and I could just tell that I needed water. And it was the event was fixing to start, and you couldn't leave the facility because you couldn't go out and come back in. So there you were stuck. And I was looking at somebody and I said, you know, I was like, yeah, it just made me, it gave me the understanding about where we're going. And so I'm thinking, here I am needing something to drink. And I went to this lady, and she was standing there, and I said, is there a way I can pay you if you use your credit card and let me get, let's say, a bottle of water? Well, she said, of all the days that I came to work, I didn't think I need my card, so I didn't bring my card.
Oh.
Okay. So then they went and found somebody else, and that's when they came and they said, well, don't you have a digital wallet? You know, because I started noticing everybody was using their phones out there, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I just had not been in a big facility with a lot of people locked in a place, couldn't leave because if you left, you couldn't come back in. Okay. And the thing hadn't even started yet. And all I'm wanting is a bottle of water.
Yeah. If you think about that,
let me know that this is really sad, because what happens is when everything goes into the digital world, if you needed bottled water, I'm telling you, if you had $1 million in cash, I could have said to somebody, I got $1 million here. I need a bottle of water. I don't think anybody would have taken it. And so that's where we're headed. People will say, well, I've got gold and I've got silver and I've got cash.
I know. That's just, or they say, I've got Bitcoin. It's in my digital wallet. I'm like, well, what's going to happen? I said to the one person, I said, what's going to happen if we get an EMP and we can't boot up our computers? We can't boot up our phone. He says to me, he goes, well, when the electricity gets back on, I'll have my wallet still.
Oh my gosh. I'm telling you, Laura, I hope people have listened to this tonight, because we have brought, I believe, to the table some of those up-to-date information that if you are not a child of God and you have not chosen Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, you need to do it now. I'm talking about not 2 hours from now. I'm talking about while this broadcast, you're hearing it. You need to ask Jesus Christ to come into your life and really fervently pray, you know, for him to be a part of your life, and ask him to forgive you your sins, and literally start changing and walking. Pick up your cross and follow him. Like you said earlier, the other religions are gone. Christianity is the only one left. The moment the Holy Spirit is taken out of this world, if we're called away and a catching away, can you imagine the chaos that will ensue if the Holy Spirit is removed?
Well, you know,
do not let a moment go by without knowing that Jesus Christ is your Lord and your Savior. And regardless of what's coming, whether it's UAPs, aliens, some kind of weird disease, whatever. Put Jesus first. It says, God says you put him first. He will give you the desires of your heart. He will look after you. Everything will be fine. But you have got to put him first. You cannot have anything else first. Nothing. Not your children, not your job, not sex, not drinking, not drugs, not stealing. It's got to be God first. And if you will do that and keep your eyes on him, you will make it through the days that are coming. But if you take your eyes off of him, like the 5 virgins who were worthy of going and didn't keep those lamps lit, those 5 got left behind. That's not talking about unsaved people. That's talking about 5 virgins that were worthy of going and got left because they didn't keep the oil in their lamps. In other words, they were not following what Scripture tells us as Christians to be doing. So I hope and pray tonight that everybody understands your greatest asset and who you are is your soul. It's who you are. And if Satan can take that away and put it in hell with him, he is, well, just look at what we've talked about. He's got all the technology in the world to do it. And if you're not paying attention and making the right choice, you're going to make the wrong choice. You need to talk to your family. You need to talk to your friends and your loved ones and try to explain to them that something bad's going to happen. And you want to make sure that your loved ones end up in heaven with you. I can't think of anything that's more important. There's nothing in this world worth losing your inheritance over. Nothing.
Exactly. Nothing. And you know what? You're not promised tomorrow. I mean, this is something
you're one breath away from your eternal retirement, and you either want to spend it in a really nice place because the people that see that have near-death experiences say heaven is unreal. But the ones that talk about hell, that is forever and ever. It is not lights out. It's 1 or 2 places, and you're one breath away from it.
Exactly. You know, yeah, that's the one thing, you know, is the scariest words I believe that I could possibly ever hear is him saying that, getting to Jesus and him saying, I know you not. Depart.
Yeah, depart from me.
I know you're not.
Yeah, I would think if that would be my worst nightmare too.
Yeah.
Depart from me. I never knew you. Oh my gosh.
Exactly.
So I don't want anybody to get left behind. I don't want anybody to not make it. And you know, that goes for anybody that's not even a friend or somebody that's an enemy. I mean, I never want God's children, because we are all God's children. And if I could just, I'm always talking about, I want to take them to the water and I just want to put their heads down in it, you know, and make them drink. And I know that it's your choice. I mean, God does not send people to hell.
We send
you choose to go there, and he lets you go because it is your free will and your choice. So choose wisely.
Yeah, time is running out on a lot of things. Time is running out for us tonight as well.
Oh, it goes by so fast, Laura. I mean, I'm telling you, tonight I really have enjoyed talking about this because it is something that's very dear to my heart that I've been doing a long time, and I just see it playing out, and you see it too. Yeah. So tell your friends and loved ones that, you know, that Laura and I are out there trying to bring the truth to you, and pass it on this knowledge to your loved ones.
Exactly. All right. Joy will be back with us next month on another topic. Actually, next month I would like to get with you sometime before we go live next month and do some things on the Epstein files.
Oh, that sounds great.
So, yeah, that would be great. Because some of the things that are in those need to be exposed. People need to know. We need to light a fire under Christians and get them fired up about what's in those files, I think. So.
Well, I pray that the pastors get ready for the UAP. I mean, I really do.
Yeah.
I hope that they can be ready, because this thing about conspiracy and it's not real, it's not going to cut it when they show what they're going to show.
And I want people to understand that there is going to be a deception out there. You're going to see things that you're going to think are something else other than they are. Don't listen to the voices that are going to be in your head telling you different. Stay strong in scripture. Even if an angel comes to you speaking another gospel, believe it or not.
That's right.
Okay. So, all right.
And
Thank
do not fear. And
No.
you say that. Do not fear, because it tells us not to fear. It says, look up, because your redemption draweth nigh when you see these things come to pass.
I think a lot of people that have the fear are the ones that don't have the hope beyond the grave. I know the ones that, that have that hope and have that understanding that, this is just a flesh body, that our exaltedness and our
That's right.
power comes on the other side. So
It's really real. It's not
It is.
fake.
no, it's not fake. So, all right, Joy, thank you for joining me. I want to thank everybody in our chat room. I want to thank all of our moderators. And until next time, guys, remember, eyes open, absolutely no fear.
Amen.
All right.